is just a quick overview of the area of the project. If you look at the green box is subject property, as well as other projects that have been approved within the proximity, within a quarter mile of the project. You'll notice that the boxes have quick little summaries on the number of lots, square footage of the lots, and so on. You'll notice that 3 of those 4 projects have smaller lots than subject. The 4th project that does have a little larger lot is less than 100 square feet, but it's bigger. All of these projects were approved with the PD overlay zone. Staff report mentions that the city moved forward to approve these lots to provide housing diversity and indirectly based on smaller lot sizes and reduced setbacks.
So we're familiar with all those, because those all came through the council for approval previously, so we know about all those projects and what we approved. I don't know that we need you to refresh our memory on that. If you want to talk about your project, we're happy to hear it.
Well, I'm trying, I guess I'm.
But, and I know you presented this before too, to the planning commission, that's been considered, so.
Well, I guess the question is really, if we're asked to come up and speak on the project, we have to have more than 3 minutes. I mean,
Well, then we would ask you to come prepared and bring your flash drive before the meeting, so it's all loaded. That's taking up the time as well, but we're sitting here waiting for you to get ready. So you gotta consider our time as well.
Okay, well,
So.
I don't have a very lengthy presentation,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
And
It's very brief.
Go ahead.
I don't
Let's
see
hear
this
it.
lasting more than maybe 5 more minutes. If that's working.
do your best, 5 or less.
Okay, so we talked about that, I'll just move right on to the next. So all of these projects will require the developer to build 2-story homes. A good number of those projects have already been built and they're all 2-story homes. Now, as noted, I won't bother with this slide. As noted in the meeting minutes during the last city council meeting, Mayor Biasi had expressed that nothing was agreed to during design review at the planning commission level. We don't know how the houses will look, and there remains a problem with access. Mayor Biasi, planning commission has since the last city council meeting unanimously approved the site plan and design review, as well as resolved any access issues that were raised. Mayor Biasi also mentioned that this project does not provide any diversity, and this could be a different type of project with a different type of housing. Perhaps attached housing or something along those lines. Although that's a great thought, and I applaud you for that, because that's out-of-box thinking, and that out-of-box thinking could be a big benefit to the city. No problem with that. This particular project just it does not fit for that. For instance, we're currently about 25% below the maximum number of homes that can go on that parcel. And we've seen all of the concerns that have been brought up. And we addressed all the concerns. But if we were to do attached housing or something like that, I would think that the density would only go up.
Mr. Tucker, you know,
That's not accurate.
this hearing is about the subdivision at this time. Maybe if you could direct your comments to the subdivision and the topic.
Well,
As you're going through the project type and all those things, just ask you to focus, and if you could just focus your comments only on the subdivision and what is before the city council tonight, please, please.
Okay, I will just go ahead and close. In closing, I'm going to say that Crown Communities is pleased to submit this project that will provide more affordable homes here in Winters. This project provides young families the ability to buy their first home and it be a single-story home. Why are single-story homes needed? These young families with small children who would prefer not to have a 2-story home, or families with members that have mobility issues that also necessitate a single-story home. As such, the project meets various goals and objectives of both the state in its efforts to address the housing crisis in California, as well as the goals and objectives of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments and its Blueprint Plan, which, as you know, seeks a variety of housing types, particularly those on infill sites within walking distance of such facilities as schools and parks, which this project meets. I would appreciate if council member Mr. New, who sits on a SACOG committee, can further elaborate on this need and whether this project fits this need. We appreciate the time and effort City Council, your staff, and the Planning Commission have spent on reviewing this project, and we believe that with the Planning Commissioner's unanimous approval, along with your staff's support of the project's site plan and design review application last week, and with the conditions of approval, we have addressed all issues and questions that have been raised regarding this project. Thank you, and I just have one last request, and that is that after public testimony and to answer any further questions that may arise with city council, if I could have the opportunity to come back up here and address any of that prior to closing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak during the public hearing? Okay. Not sure what time it is, but I'm gonna close the public hearing and Tracy, can you stop the 7:26. Oh, okay. Okay, so Councilmember Lauren has a question. Yes.
All right, Dave, I'd like to talk more about the 10-foot easement area, and I wanted to get some information, not being a specialist in city planning. How wide is a general sidewalk in the city of Winters, or what's our minimum at least?
4.5 feet.
So if you have 4.5 feet, could you, what I imagine would be the best use of that space is to have 4.5-foot sidewalk, the length of it, so that when people get out of their cars, they can get out on the sidewalk, or people that walk around the cul-de-sac and walk around it, and maybe have cobble or some other substrate that will allow water drainage with the rest of the remaining 5.5 feet.
I think that would be a fine solution, it would be a compromise.
And when I say this, it's, I know that it seems like, let's put some cobble in there and it'll be a cost-effective solution to a problem, but actually what it becomes over time is a misuse of space. I mean, people like to walk their dogs, put their kids in a stroller, go for a walk, and have it on even, sidewalks if it's along an area where cars are gonna go in and out, and to just have a substrate that can't really be used, it takes that away. It takes that opportunity for a walk-friendly community or bike-friendly community away from residents. So I would just like in the planning of this to have something that is both flat and walkable, like a sidewalk, a 4.5-foot sidewalk, and then some other substrate that allows for drainage.
Questions from council? Comments?
I do not have a question.
I don't have a question.
I'll just go along with what Councilmember Lawrence talking about this easement. The idea of having a sidewalk or something more walkable for the first 4.5 feet, I would definitely be in favor of, whether it's decomposed granite, concrete, what it is, and then the cobble beyond that, just again, getting in and out of cars on that side, stepping on the big cobble would, I think be somewhat of a hazard, but some kind of compromise there for a walkable, usable surface, I think that first 4.5 feet would definitely be in my recommendations. Other than that, I think all the other questions have been answered for me, and the fire department's happy that was an important thing last time, so. So other than that one one thing with the easement, I know they have to, whatever they do, it may partially be determined by LDS since it's technically their property, their easement, so they're gonna get a little bit of say, but,
But I
you know,
mean, right now, they're the property owner of the whole thing, so
yeah,
that's the nice part. is
Exactly.
We're not, you know, they're gonna have to agree with it.
as long as there isn't stuff under there that says we can't put concrete, if we can't, then decompose granite's fine to me, because that's even ADA legal, so.
I need to clarify, that is a 10-foot PUE that's proposed with this project.
It's not currently
Correct.
used as a utility.
Correct.
Okay,
Our city standards require 10-foot PUEs on
Oh, okay.
both sides of the streets, so
okay,
that's why that's shown. It's not necessary, but Brian showed it because that's the city standard. Typically, there's utilities running on both sides of the
Yeah.
streets because there's houses on both
Yeah.
sides of the street. So that's an easement that could easily go away. We could just have a spot for the hydrant if needed.
Mhm.
That's gonna be a sidewalk, then we would probably extend the right of way of the property. Developer would need to buy property from the adjacent property.
To do a
owners.
sidewalk.
And I anticipate that putting in a sidewalk would require a retaining wall in that slope.
Okay. It's on a slope. Well, I still like the idea of something more walkable, even if it is a little bit of a slope, other than just cobble to step out on. However,
And I think
Curve, I think.
working with Alan and.
yeah, I think that can be worked out between
Developers.
staff and the developer
Yeah.
and the engineers, they can figure out that part.
But there should also be a curb cut at the end of that, on that corner, so that if it's accessible, if we put DG in there where it is, if you're going from lot 15, going along that pathway, that when you get to the end of that sidewalk, you can, pathway, whatever you want to call it, that you can get off there,
Right.
across the street.
Right, and I
Our
believe they
engineer has a
added that
question.
in, right?
I have
They
a
added
question.
one at the corner of the
In the
knuckle,
corner.
the knuckle.
If you're gonna ask for a sidewalk, it's gonna be
No.
concrete.
Can be
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
DG path.
Just a path like we have in the park.
My recommendation is against that because that's probably worthwhile to maintain that. That's,
The homeowners association would have to maintain it, just like we're asking them to
Oh.
maintain the landscaping, is that correct?
Well, the gate was the last thing I heard where they'd maintain. And obviously, if there's 5+ feet left over of that's landscape, we're not sure whether it be landscape or big rocks like they talked about. But if it were landscape, they would have to maintain that as well.
Just from the city engineer standpoint, it would be it would have to be a concrete sidewalk. Because they're gonna have to put some retaining there and to do that, so concrete.
So that would, like you say, require them to purchase the right of way on the LDS property, is that right?
And they'll just have to gain the right of way to put it in the sidewalk.
Is that something the developer might be agreeable to? Is that something that you might be agreeable to?
As far as the easement, they've already agreed, they're gonna allow the easement for the 10-foot that is on the conditions right now.
But you also put a sidewalk with a retaining wall along there.
Wait, that does become considerably pricier.
So is that, you're saying you're not agreeable?
Well, I
Is that
don't
what
know,
you're-
I'm just-
Well,
Think to,
I think that's something between staff and us, we can probably come up with.
because I think the cobbles, although they may be good for drainage, they are not good for access. People getting out of their car on these cobbles, to me, that you're creating a hazard for people. I have a neighbor down the street, he put those in, so people won't park there. And so it's obviously, it's a deterrent. I see it happening, so I think if we were to put that in there, it's not gonna be, they're not gonna get, nobody's gonna be able to get out that side, and if they do, there's potential for a hazard there, I think.
We're not expecting like huge rock, I mean, the cobble that gives you perception of something big, it's not, that was not
Yeah.
our intention, so.
Yeah.
Nothing terrible.
Are there questions from,
No, I just want to emphasize that long-term safety, it should be the driving force behind the decision, whether it's, concrete and a retaining wall. It's something that the city will have for a very long time. And we also live in a litigious society, So we want something that's not gonna, be hazardous to people walking. And that would be, I think, the city's values.
I think we can, come up with a solution between staff and Alan and. yeah.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Comments?
Question is, if we go to approve this, then when we get to the section where the chain link fence is, are we going to insert the fact that it's going to have a sidewalk?
Well, Ethan, is that something that we can do, is modify that condition 23 on there to say, right now it says the sidewalk is being eliminated, may be removed or moved 4 feet from the face of the curb to allow enough room for persons to open doors next to their cars. I think somewhere in there, Dave, there's some place that says it needs to be landscape, another condition, or do you remember?
You can modify with the conditions. I think you're gonna have to be clear. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly clear right now on what
Mhm.
that would be. And so whoever, you can make modifications to the conditions, but it needs to be clear on what your direction is.
Well, if we go that way, then I will look and see if somebody wants to modify that. I would like to see it modified to say that the fence be moved back and a sidewalk and retaining wall be added. With a curb cut at the end of that. Otherwise, we have that sidewalk that comes around that corner in front of lot 15, and then it just dead ends right there. Basically, you have a sidewalk to nowhere. You get to the end of that, and you can't continue on along there. I just think it would be, as Councilmember Lauren said, for just the good of our community, to make it a more walkable community and usable
Sure.
community, to have sidewalks on that
Like I
side.
said, I'm very agreeable with working with Alan and coming up with a good solution.
We could add to the chat, I would say, we're not there yet, we don't have a motion or anything yet, so I have a couple other comments, so I would just like to say, one of my issues that I brought up before was the fire access. I'm glad that that's been cleared up. We met with the fire department and chief, and to me, it sounds like the fire chief is happy with it. I'm good with that. One of the other issues I brought up was the 5-foot setbacks on either side. And, I know we're talking about, this is a small development, and we want to put in single-story homes, make them more affordable. I will say, although 5-foot setback is not my desire, I would go along with it in this case for the small project. I have a question on, when we talk about the drainage, and Dave, maybe you can tell me, since Brian Romino's not here, do you know where the retaining walls are supposed to be? I know that's in one of the conditions, that those retaining walls be put in before any grading happens on the property, and maybe, Alan, do you know?
I believe the retaining wall is against the school
Okay.
at the end there. So the current drainage is the LDS church's drainage flows north and then gets into a swale. So that's going to be collected and put into a water quality channel that will run along on the LDS property and into a storm drain system that feeds into our public system. So that'll be a better situation. In this case, it'll clean that water off the parking lot, put it into our system so it won't inundate the adjacent property owners, which it has in the past. I remember that issue coming up 15 years ago with the school district and stuff. So can I ask that you be clear on whether you want a sidewalk or not? And
I've got a condition.
once you understand, it hasn't been engineered yet, so I hope it fits. But the engineer needs to look at that and make sure that a sidewalk works.
All right. And I just want to make sure that all those drainage things are taken care of before the grading starts. We've had a couple of projects where that didn't happen and subsequently flooded neighboring property, so I'm glad that we added that condition in there. And make sure we do that with any future developments, I hope. And I was at the planning commission meeting. I listened to the design review the planning commission did. I'm glad to hear that you were agreeable to the suggestions that Dave made to make the houses, kind of break them up a little more, the roof lines, things like that, to make them look less, so that you're not looking at the exact same house all the way down the street. That will help to make them, a little bit better looking. Your comment about, where you're putting in 25% fewer homes than could be on that property, I don't think, in my opinion, that's accurate. Though it's zoned R1, you don't have enough room on that property to have the setbacks that we require and put 24 homes on that property with proper setbacks. So, even though it's zoned R1, that could be up to that many homes per acre, or in that parcel, you don't have enough room for the setbacks that would be required for that. So it's not really accurate to say that you're putting 25% fewer than you could in
I
there.
think I was just going based upon what zoning is. I just, Mr. Dodwell can explain that better.
I mean, I think, your attempt to make these homes in here single story, I applaud you for that. And I like your idea of saying, you're gonna make these affordable. I'm very curious what your definition of affordable is, and I'm not gonna put you on the spot tonight to say what you're gonna sell them for. I know you guys have probably gone in, done the calculations, whether this is gonna work or not. But, we're making, if we approve this tonight, we're making concessions to our design standards, to a lot of things that we have in order to try to get some more affordable housing in there. So I do applaud you for bringing that type of project to us. I think those are my only other comments that I have. I think, like I said, we've addressed most of the things that were brought up at previous meetings, so thank you. Any other comments or questions from council?
Okay, I'll tackle this. I'll move, staff recommendations for approval of the project, adding to item 23, that the east side of the north-south road leading in, adjacent to the LDS property, have acceptable walking surface per staff approval. Is that okay, Ethan?
Yeah, I would, for staff approval, I would specifically reference the city engineer as well,
Okay. And
and the city engineer.
city staff and engineer.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a motion and a second? Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you for working on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Moving on, another popular topic tonight. We have the RFP for water and sewer rate study. Good evening.
So before you tonight, the staff has given you a copy of the proposed RFP for our water and sewer rate study. As part of our refunding of the 2007 water and sewer bonds in order to lower our debt service and lower our interest payments, we agreed with the financial folks that we would prepare our own rate changes to work forward on the refunding. But once we got the refunding in place and we had a little more breathing room within the water and sewer funds, we would go out for a water and sewer rate study to do a financing plan. They come up with a rate study for more than a couple of years. And so the agreement was that we would get through this stuff the 18-19 fiscal year, because we kind of changed the rates in the middle of the year. And then when we got into the 19-20 year, we would go out for a rate study and have a consultant prepare that for us. So what we're asking tonight is that you review the proposed RFP for water and sewer rate studies, direct the staff to issue the RFP via website, email, and U.S. mail to interested parties, direct staff to receive and review responses to the RFP, direct staff to interview consultants responding to the RFP, and direct staff to bring a recommendation to the city council for the selection of a consultant to perform the water and sewer rate study. So, any questions, concerns, comments?
questions?
I think we do
Yes,
have
we
to
do.
do this because we told the underwriters and everybody we would do this. Plus, this is an opportunity to do a little bit deeper dive into how we set the rates than what staff did in order to provide some relief and make sure we were meeting our debt service requirements when we refunded the bonds, because we hadn't been meeting our debt service requirements under those current rates. This is an opportunity to dig deeper, have somebody else get in and help us do that digging and make sure the rates are appropriately set. And with the, it's an opportunity to make sure to look at things and make sure we're doing it as correctly as possible. And, yeah, it's a painful process. There's no doubt about it, it's a painful process. But it is something that has to be done. None of our costs are going down. None of them are going down. And so we need to make sure that we are properly funding the water and sewer operations. They do not get tax money. They do not get any money from the general fund. They're all funded from the rates. We need to make sure we're doing that we're collecting the proper amount of money. We don't want to collect too little. We don't want to collect too much. We want to figure out what the proper rate is and collect.
Mayor, I would just add, under Proposition 218, you do have to do this like relatively frequently, and we're getting up to the point where we need to do a new one, because not only, well, I realize they very rarely if ever go down, it is important that you not be working off of old numbers, because if someone does question your rates, you need to make sure that you're keeping that up from time to time.
Maybe with the water leak that the public works we found, we won't need so much water, our rates get better.
That's it.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
We have to look at it.
that'd be nice.
Okay. Comments, questions?
I just have one that I might have missed it in here, but I see on your little schedule of things, the notice to proceed would be most likely in the month of March 2020. Does it also tell us in here how long you expect that study to take? And would we see the results of that? Do we have an idea on that?
We would propose to have the results before June 30th, is what the intent is, so that we use this fiscal year to do the work, determine what the rates need to be, plan on doing, we have to go through the Prop 218 notice, which is preparing the, coming to you, proposing the rates, getting your authorization to issue the notice, 45 days for everybody to look at the rate study, look at the proposed rates, and then come back to you to approve those rates, whatever they might be. And, they could come back and say the rates are fine and just leave them alone. They could do that. Nothing says it has to go up, nothing says it has to go down, nothing says it has to change. But we need to look at everything and make sure that the basis on which we're setting those rates is accurate. And we've done some things, made some changes, and so we need to look and make sure we're accurate.
And ultimately, it's going to have to be wrapped into the next two-year budget that we have. So
Yeah.
they'll get it moving along. So anticipate that everything will hit probably in May.
Questions? When the public have questions on this? Okay, then I will open up for a motion to move staff recommendation.
Move to approve staff recommendation as stated.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Echo Green Solutions. Installation of lighting upgrades at Community Center and City Hall.
Mayor and council members, coming tonight to talk to you about Eco Solutions and PG&E. They have been working with Eco to look at the possibility of doing some lighting upgrades at City Hall and Community Center, and using their zero interest loan program to put those improvements in. So Eco Green Solutions did come out and they did an energy efficiency survey to see if we would qualify for this on-bill financing energy efficiency retrofit loan program through PG&E. And the analysis was done, and it was determined that both City Hall and the Community Center could qualify. The projects have to be within 5,000, no more than at least 5,000 and no more than $250,000 worth of improvements, and you have to have a 10-year payback. So both those facilities will do so. We're estimating over the 10-year plus timeframe, City Hall would be saving about 30,000 and Community Center about 36,000. So we do have it is a loan, but there's no upfront cost to do the improvements, and the loan payments would actually be offset by the savings that you're gaining by having lower utility bills. So it's a wash, basically. So, and we're hoping that they'll come out and do a demo and make sure that the improvements they're putting in are acceptable to everybody before they go and install everything. And assuming it is, we'll be putting in LEDs pretty much, right?
I can
Yeah.
speak.
And yeah, Lee is here from
Okay.
Eco Solutions if you'd like to.
I only have a couple hundred slides, so no problem.
We're also hoping that, if this pans out as well as we hope, then we can look at the other facilities and see if there's other opportunities to save more money and energy, which we're all looking for opportunities to reduce our greenhouse gas, Lee, you want to?
Yeah, I will, because she's done a really good job. So here's the bottom
Don't
line.
bring out a flash drive.
You know, bring out a flash drive.
Two of them.
When you guys ask for
It's
someone, any comment, I was gonna walk out and just go, but then so what she, Carol, she's been great doing this. So basically what this is this money, they take money out of everyone's bill, every PG&E, hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is driven by the CPUC. So because PG&E has access to your bills, they take it out. So it's not PG&E's money, it's the ratepayers' money, it's our money. So they put all this money in. Then what they have to do is they have to provide incentives. So this on-bill financing, it is a loan, it's zero interest loan, but it's not a bank. The qualifications are, have you been in business for 2 years? It's eligible to all PG&E customers. Have you been in business for 2 years, and do you pay your bills on time? That's it. So what the big initiative is the state of California basically wants to get cities to provide the money to not only to reduce the energy consumption, but the greenhouse gases. So that's what they do it. So what happens is those people, just to give you an idea, the state of California is eating this money up like Pac-Man. Because the Matt Hannigan, this deputy director of sustainability, he thought, hey, this sounds a little too good to be true. So he said, hey, I want to try it with my state parks. He goes, okay, it is. And he goes, boom. He did it for the EDD, the DMV, and they're just grabbing it because it's basically based on first come, first serve. And when the funds are exhausted, then you get on a waiting list because as the loans pay off, then more people are doing it. But that's just saying. So what she says, zero upfront cost and it's zero impact to your budget. And is Eric still there?
Mm-hmm.
We, Echo Green, what we do is we administer the program. We're the ones that provide all the upfront costs. We get reimbursed at the end of the project by PG&E. All you guys do is pay your energy bill. It doesn't go up. The energy savings cancels out the loan payment. Now, once the loan payment's paid off, now your energy will drop. But in the meantime, you reduce your maintenance operation costs, carbon emissions, all that. And we do all the work. So like Eric, you guys don't have to do the resources. Because what has happened was, even though they'll provide the money, we'll come to you and go, we don't have the resources to do this. So if that doesn't, then they don't meet their goals. So what we were going to do is we were going to pilot the 2 City Hall, because you guys are eligible, not that you'll use it, but up to $4 million. So we were going to pilot it, see how it all works, so you guys would believe that this is true, right? And that it works. And then at that, you guys can use it for the rest of your city.
So after hearing our public works superintendent speak, maybe they could put them in cheaper than you can.
If they have if you have the resources.
Extra towards the senior center.
Yeah, no, when he was up here talking, I heard, they don't have
the manpower.
you don't have no, and we have to get it done, right? What I'm saying is the state of California, they got to get it done. And I guess it's
So you'll come in and change out all the fixtures and put in the LED lights, your company does all that?
we do it full turnkey. Again, we have to, even the warranty support, because again, we have to make it easy to make it, to get it done. Otherwise, no one ever meets their goals.
But it including maintenance this is over a 10-year period? the warranty?
Well, no, it's up, what you're eligible for is $250,000, as long as the RO or the payback is within 10 years, right? So no, those are there. So yours is like 33 and it might be 9, but even then sometimes you get better energy savings. But there's so many other benefits that, that all PG&E and CPUC care about is the energy savings. Yeah. You guys get so much more.
We care about that too.
Yeah. But it's just a means to upgrade yours to the latest technology, why the money's there, because they're always taking it away. The rebates are always going, because by the time you guys do it, LED, it'll be a standard. If it's a standard, there's no more incentive, so they're not gonna provide you the money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You guys have any questions? Yes.
I have a question about, will there be any measurable amount of greenhouse gas savings? Once you do it, can we say that our city is doing X?
Right, so we'll get that, yeah. Because that's another added benefit of the deal, because that whole big purpose was to reduce greenhouse gases. And the way they do that is through using less energy.
And getting rid of fluorescents will help do that.
Sure. Perfect, because you guys know, there's mercury in all these.
So
That all goes away.
You would take care of dispose of all those?
We take care of everything. You guys wouldn't, if you guys go on vacation and come and do it, you wouldn't know until you came in. Again, you have to make it easy. Unlike what was going on before.
If you could, just for all the people at home watching on camera, state your name for us.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Lee Knowles from Echo Green.
Okay,
Yeah, we're a PG&E Trade Pro Alliance partner.
great, thank you.
One thing I wanted to ask about, in these old buildings, especially this one, we have some fixtures that are like old, I call them schoolhouse fixtures, that's what they're referred to as. So the plan there is not to get rid of our antique fixtures, to simply replace the bulbs with LED.
In whatever that case may be, yes.
All right.
Yeah, and that's what because we spoke on that, because sometimes if we have to, we'll skip them, so that you can keep that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm sure they could all have LEDs put in.
Yeah.
I just don't want to lose the antique fixtures, 'cause
Right.
I think they're nice. These, I know what happens
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
You toss them and you put in
All the
the
ones
LED
upstairs
ones.
that the screw-ins, we've been putting LEDs as they
Yeah.
come.
Oh, so they already have
Yeah.
LEDs, okay. I just didn't want to lose our
Right.
antique fixtures.
Yeah, that's a great question, but no, we took that into consideration.
Okay.
Any questions? Sounds great.
So by the way, you've been approved. So all we have to do is wait for John to authorize it, and then just so you know, because she's been working diligently on this, Carol, so.
Thank you, Carol.
Any other questions?
Is anyone out there in the audience? Yes, come forward, please. Hi.
Good.
I used to work a lot with the LED bulbs, the salesmen and stuff. And one issue I have with them is, when they burn out, sometimes they do run into an issue. One of the drivers goes bad, LED strip shorts out. And 2 years later, after somebody switched their whole facility over to them, the problem they would run into is the manufacturer no longer makes that model. So you could have this room in here with 21 bulbs in it or 21 light fixtures, and the replacement will be different than the rest. So I'd just be kind of curious to know what brand you're using and how long they're going to keep an existing model or something.
That's a great question. I did not put him in the audience. No, it's a great question, because I don't know if anyone knows this, or do you care? But when they first started coming out, they would actually buy insurance because companies were going out of business. So, no, what happens is the warranties typically are either 5 to 10 year warranties.
Right.
And we actually have an excellent warranty program where we'll do the labor as long as it's hardware for the first year. And then for whatever the warranty is, all you gotta do is take a picture of it, send it to us, we'll send it back. And then most of the time it is a driver. And a driver for you guys in there, it's a balance. So it's a piece of the puzzle. But it's a great question, because a lot of these companies do go out of business. And with the PG&E program, it has to be DLC listed, Design Like Consortium. So it has to be a quality product so that you guys don't get junk. Everything is to protect you guys, right? So no, I was teasing because I couldn't have asked for a better question on that, because what we call them, it's so interesting, because I was just texting with Gonzales Unified School District, because in the school district they have Prop 39. Well,
they went ahead and they did all these LED fixtures. Well, they're going out, and he thought they were mine. I go, those aren't. He can't get a warranty on it because the company went out of business. We've been in business for 11 years. We've been doing this. In this on-bill financing, we do 80% of PG&E's on-bill financing programs. So, like I said, I was kind of teasing. I was just trying to lighten it up from earlier, but no, it's a great question because he's stuck. Now he's stuck with these, and he can't get a warranty on the wall packs.
Yeah, well, it was that, but it's even with other manufacturers, you know, I can go into lots of examples, but it was just something that, you know, you put them up, you expect them to last for 10 years, if something does happen.
No, it is, and then there, and two, even then, because the things will change. And what you do is, like we'll say, if that product's not made anymore, what we'll do is we'll have to get a comparable product for that. But whatever the warranty is, it stands. I was being serious. It was a great question because that's one of the biggest concerns is we call them companies like that blow and go or smash and grab.
You didn't answer what product or what manufacturer.
Because we have several different manufacturers. But the point is, all those manufacturers, the products have to be DLC listed in Energy Star. So they have to meet a requirement so that you can't just go buy the least and cheapest thing out there. So you get quality products, you get an excellent warranty program. Again, the state, the CPU, everyone wants this program to work because they have a goal to meet, right? PG&E has a goal to meet from the CPUC, their mandate. You got to reduce your energy consumption by this for the state of California, basically for climate control and all of that.
You have to meet a CLI standard.
A CLI?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the CLI.
It's a color index.
Oh, the CRI. I'm sorry. I think you said CLI. So a CRI. Well, it depends on what they want. But that's why we do a demo. CRI is a color, meaning warm or cool. Okay.
It's not just that, it's quality.
Stay below
Yeah,
that.
let's
Yeah,
say
way below that.
like 2,800 or something.
Yeah, they love it.
I took that.
Yeah, but that's why we do a demo. A demo meaning we'll bring in a sample. And I always say this, you have to allow 3 days because it will be bright and everyone will, oh, because they're not used to change. But after 3 days, they go, we love it.
I got one more question too. Since this is done by the taxpayers of the state of California,
It's a utility rate.
utility rate, so, you know.
It's not a tax, it's not
It's not
taxpayer.
tax, but,
It's a surcharge, they call it.
okay, a surcharge sounds like a tax to me, but, you know, I'm not gonna.
No, you can't. Oh, I looked it up. No, believe me, it comes out of my bill as
I know,
well.
it comes out of everybody's. bill,
Yeah,
so
it does.
it's a tax. Anyways, my other question on the whole thing is, you know, since the state is kind of paying for this, are you using any of the local manufacturers for these LED fixtures?
We have our manufacturers from everywhere, and it's not, like I said, it's a utility rate players. It's us, everyone who has a PG&E bill, it's a utility, so we use whatever manufacturers we have that have DLC listed with PG&E.
I'm just kind of curious to know if you're using local manufacturers or state ones.
Or China. So, can you clarify what you had said before on the warranty part? You said they're warranted as long as we're making the payments on the.
Oh, no,
warranty, is that right?
the product will have the
So
product,
it's the product warranty.
the
only.
product warranty.
You're not warranty, so the whole time that we're paying on, if something happens, we can call you and you'll come and fix it.
Oh, no, we're here. Like I said, for the first year, the labor is there, but no, let's say after 2 years, the thing, it still has a 5-year warranty. Put it this way, City of Gilroy, he called me, because they did 1.2 million just for LEDs and another. And he said, hey, Lee, I need to buy some of these fixtures. I go, well, Walter, those are still under warranty.
What's the typical warranty period for?
5 to 10 years.
5 to 10.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're.
No, you will when we
When you come after
spec
that.
them in, yeah.
Right.
And you'll get all of that.
We still don't know what brand it is then either.
Oh,
Well,
not yet.
Find that out later. That'll come.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
like I
surprise.
said, the brand has to be DL,
Gotta
like,
meet the standards.
it has to meet the standards.
Yes,
I
come
did,
forward, so everybody at home can see it.
I did our office
Say your name,
building,
Mike. Go ahead, okay. Say your name so we can get you on record.
Dave Springer, 200 McDrone Court.
Thank
I did our office building in Davis and also my house. There are actually 22 linear fluorescents in our house. And what I like to use, what I used there was Max Light, and you take the ballast out and and you just wire 120 volt in one end, and it's very simple to install and remove, replace. I think most of the linear fluorescent replacements I've seen are the same kind of setup. So even if that manufacturer goes out of business, most likely they'll have a replacement business. I think it's a great program.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a couple of comments about all these LEDs, because I put them in almost daily and in every project we do, but they do last a long time, and the better companies, you can't go buy them at Costco or Sam's Club, you gotta buy real fixtures. They're a little bit more than the cheap brands, but they do last, and they do have good warranties, and I've proven that, because we put 160 in a house, one or two of them doesn't function correctly in the first year or two, or even longer, pop them out, take them back, and there's never been a hesitation getting a replacement.
And that's another great point.
You know,
There
with
will
the-
be.
with the reputable companies, there's,
Well, Wade, that's a
no
great
issue.
question, because there will be failures.
yeah.
I mean, because they're manufacturing millions of these. LED is the new standard. You're not gonna be able to get, like, all this other stuff. So that's why you might as well use this money while it's there, because it's out, all of our money.
Yeah, and the electrical savings is huge.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Well, a lot of people really like it for the maintenance and operations, reduction of that cost. Because again, if you don't have to change a lamp for 10 years, or if you have any area lights you don't have to run the scissors. We found one city, cost them $600 to change a light bulb. An outdoor light, because they had to get a scissor lift and the labor. $600 to change the light bulb.
Eric could do it for less.
Okay, you have a comment?
I just have a comment. I just want to thank Carol. Carol brings innovative ideas and is always bringing stuff to the city that elevates the city, helps us save money, and is eco-friendly. So I just want to really thank you for your hard work.
Thank you for all your support.
Any questions? If not, I will open it up for a motion.
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we're going to the next discussion item is establishing Climate Action Plan Development Board.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'll try to be brief this evening. You might recognize me as the Civic Spark Fellow for Christopher Flores here for the City Winners. Last time I came to council, I gave you a discussion about forming what I considered then a climate action committee. Since then, I've met city manager and a few members of the public to revamp this vision I had for the committee, and it has since been reconstructed and redeveloped as the Climate Action Plan Development Board. Quite the mouthful, so I'll refer to it as the CAP Development Board probably from here on out. So I've essentially just a few of the changes that I've made is just the scope of this board is a little bit more focused and short-term compared to the previous iteration I presented you. This board would be mainly focused on developing and finalizing our climate action plan instead of focusing on more of the long-term implementation and ongoing aspects that I had previously presented to you as well. I think this benefits the city in the sense that it would maintain that very focused vision for this group of individuals, which is very similar to the same structure that I presented to you with a few adjustments and recommendations from Councilmember Lauren and Mayor Biasi, incorporating some of active existing committee and commission bodies in the city, and also including from other public members of the public that I've heard from, incorporating a purpose behind the commission in the opening kind of guidelines that I provided with you. Again, I think the benefit to consolidating and revising and essentially bringing back this vision for the Climate Action or CAP Development Board is the benefit to the city and community members by having this smaller structure, and you might see in your packet there, I provided a schedule of tentative meeting dates moving forward in the next few months while I'm still here as a service member for the city, that I'd be able to provide my facilitation and assistance during these meetings and garner more community support. That's what I'd like to see through this kind of board, is not only having board members be leaders throughout the community, but also reaching out to community members that wouldn't necessarily come to these meetings and finding alternative dates and times to make accommodations for those that might not be able to attend a council meeting or get their voice out there. So I would also consider that as well. Again, this is a little bit different in method of scope as I previously presented to you, but I think it's the benefit for the city to engage not only city staff, consultants that will be working on the finalization of our climate action plan when it's ready to go through an EIR process. And that's part of what the city manager has also presented to you with his kind of vision moving forward with the general plan and updates and elements that are going to be required moving forward with that as well. I think it'd be beneficial for the city to, focus that scope for that 6-month term while I'm here, and I can provide that full support. And then at the end, as the board is closing up, they will form the foundation for the Climate Action Commission that has been requested from council and lay the framework for them and the ongoing implementation strategies and support that they'd like to see moving forward. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or clarify anything that's not clear that I've spoken to you about this evening or that you've already received in your packets.
Questions? Sure. I think that you've done a good job of presenting what we were asking for, was asked for at the last city council meeting. I'm very pleased to have read the report and hear what you had to say tonight.
Yeah, I'll just comment some of the same things really, but I really like what you come up with here. I like the idea of the 5-member board appointed by the council to start with to get the framework going before it's a full-blown commission. And I see you listed some liaisons here, city staff and planning commission and Winters Pewter Creek Committee, Hispanic Advisory, Senior Commission. I noticed there's not a city council liaison. I don't know if we need one or we feel we want one or another job to do, but I'm glad to see those other ones on there. And my only question is, when do we need to pick these by, since we all got to pick somebody to be on it?
8:30.
That's literally, if the council approves this, we will post this week.
So what we would do, we would advertise and take applications, and then we can pick from the applications to do our appointments. Is that the way it works?
So those applications can be circulated to all of us so we can
Do that.
Okay.
We'll push it hard in all of our avenues, but the hustle on this whole thing is we've got to really get it ready for sometime in
So you want to
January.
start having meetings in February?
Kick it off in February.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So the comment I have, a question is, says the board shall consist of no less than 5, and no more than 11. So we're not counting the liaisons as committee members, are we?
That is correct. They're not considered members that would have any voting power on anything that a 6-month board would vote on. But liaisons would be part of the group, but wouldn't be considered members when it came to decision-making processes.
My observation being on the Pewter Creek Park Committee for 10 years, or however long it's been, is the voting, the youth member. It's hard to get the youth involved and have them show up for every meeting. So having them be a voting member, not sure if we want to do 5 voting members possibly appointed by the council plus for 1 youth voting member. I don't know if the council would be open to that, but I know it's great to invite our youth and get them involved with this. I really like that. But I also have seen the reality. It's hard to get them to show up and actually be part of the discussion. And we've had some really good students over the past, but I would like to keep that in there, but I'm not sure if just 4 appointed by the council will be enough.
Yeah, I think maybe you're right, we should probably have 5 appointed if we can get,
A student
yeah,
representative.
somebody from the high school, or just out of high school to be on there, it'd be great.
Good on there. College applications too.
I apologize if that's not completely clear, but I,
That's all right.
yeah, and I'm
Nice
underneath
to have
the,
that flexibility.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I think you've done a good job putting this together. So the other question I have for you is, how much longer will you be with us?
So I'll be here through the end of next July in 2020. So I have 7 months to give my full support for this board and hopefully institute a commission moving forward. I won't be here to provide that full staff report, or support. So moving forward, part of the planning that you might see in the later meetings on the schedule, you see part of that might be working with city staff to essentially have someone take the position and role that I had been facilitating. So,
And that was my question. So after we have these 6 meetings, the recommendation would come out of it. Is that board going to be the one writing all these up, or will it be a staff member working on that? Or will it be-
Ultimately, be a staff member, but Chris is gonna finish this before he leaves. He can't leave until.
It's my job.
Either he's gonna finish, or we're just gonna end it all, and he's gonna be all for naught, and that'll be his reference.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Better get it done, Chris.
Yeah, I think you've done a good job putting this together. All right, any other comments, questions?
Well, I wanted to add to Mayor Pro Tem's comments and to the mayor's comments that I really appreciate how well organized this is, how you've taken what you've heard from the council and the public, and you've made it really transparent on when the meetings will be, that you're using Rosenberg's Rules of Order, that there will be agendas, that there will be notes. I am just so pleased with it. I did read, and I don't know if I'm reading it wrong, but it says under the term membership, it's on page 122, 5 members shall be appointed by the city council. And then, but I think that if you have 4 of us appointing adults and 1 a kid, it kind of diminishes, excuse me, I'll drink some water. I've had too much chocolate. I think it would diminish like that one person's ability to, pick somebody in the community. So if we could pick 5 of us. Yeah, okay, so plus 1, yeah, but right under it says 4 voting members appointed by the city council, so, yeah, I just want to modify that to 5. And I'm really excited about this moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your comments.
Thank you. Thanks. Comments? Anyone in the public would like to speak? Yes, Ms. Laddish. Okay, we have one first stage and then we'll move on next.
I'm gonna trace you that card. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And thank you, Mayor and Council, and a very, very big thanks to Chris Flores. I really appreciate all the work that he's done on this, and we had a fantastic conversation a few weeks ago, and I learned a lot. Thank you, Chris. This is fantastic, and I really like seeing how his idea for this is developed and how he's been able to take in different ideas about this. I think it's moved into something that will be very strong for the city, and including thinking about how do we move through different steps with this. And so starting with the climate action plan development, where it seems like a focused way to address adopting and having a climate action plan in place and getting through some of the nitty gritty as we move toward having something that is longer term. And so if kind of doing a divide and conquer with that, if that's what we end up with, something that works for both our short term and long term, then great, divide and conquer we do. And I also had questions about membership, and I also had a question as Mayor Pro Tem Cowan did about having a council liaison. And it seems to me if all the other legislative bodies within the city have a liaison, then it would make sense for council to have a liaison as well. And with the 5 to 11 members, as the mayor said, with the Winners Cedar Creek Committee, that we have a hard time getting quorum there. A county advisory board that I'm on for in-home supportive services also has a hard time getting quorum. My feeling is if this is going to be a committee that is on a very definite and defined timeline with a very specific project, that my inclination would be to have membership as defined as possible. And so if it's going to be 5 members, then it's 5 members and we define it as that. And with the additional 6 members possible, I think that might, yeah, and you know, I come to council and I'm always about getting everybody involved as possible. Great, but maybe as doing, you know, contributing as members of the public, just because I'm concerned about trying to get through something that's in a defined, distinct timeline, and just making sure that there's quorum. I'd hate for us to get off the rails just because a large number of people just couldn't make it. In terms of, let's see, looking ahead with, I just want to make sure that everybody going into this would be on the same page about, as there's finalization of the climate action plan, if there's difference of opinions between this board, staff, the consultant, council, planning commission, what's that discussion happen? And it isn't that I'm anticipating a difficulty, as I figure, let's talk about it now, because that way we've figured out how we solve it if there is a problem. It's like, take an umbrella, then it won't rain. So figure, let's make sure we know what happens if there are differences of opinions between the different parties to this. Let's see, in terms of the meeting date and time, I appreciate that there is something noted in there. And if we're asking people to do something that's pretty focused and it's a fairly heavy lift, that I'd hate for us to miss the opportunity to include some people just because they couldn't do that particular Thursday of the month. And so I don't know if there's some flexibility with that, or if that's the only time that there are city facilities and staff available. And I think the last one is moving forward, that with the timeline of this and the opportunity for public outreach, just being curious about how this might dovetail with anything that comes out of the SB2 grant with the Winter City Limits Strategic Plan. If that would have a lot of public outreach, how do we, what's the dynamic between all the different public outreach, and do we get into a cart and horse situation? How do we fold these together and just make it the most efficient and effective as possible, so that we get people to turn out and give feedback and participation in a way that's helpful for all the different projects that are coming up. But again, a big thanks to Chris for all the work that he's put into this. I think we have something that is really, we're poised to move in a very good direction with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate, you probably didn't need to lobby for an appointment.
Right? He was very generous with his time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Springer.
Dave Springer, 200 Madrone Court, Mayor and council persons. You may have heard me complain before that, you know, we did a pro bono climate action plan about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's collecting dust. So I'm delighted to see something moving forward. Whether I'm appointed to the board, which I'm not sure I have time for, or not, but whether I am or not, I'd like to volunteer my services to help, you know, review and utilize what we have developed already to make this a worthwhile effort. And a lot of changes need to be made. There's been a lot of laws passed since then. Deb Niemeyer, who collected the data that went into that report, it's very stale now. I'm interested in learning more about what the scope is, and I feel embarrassed for not having been more involved and listening to what's going on here. But anyway, thank you for the move forward on this.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment on this from the audience? So I think, Kate, your recommendation of if, whoever we end up appointing, if they don't get together and decide that third Thursday isn't the best date, if they can work out a date that meets regularly, it's good to have it like on a regular date each month, so that people in the city could know that, we know they're meeting on this date, that they don't have to guess, well, are they meeting, are they not meeting? As long as they can, people on the board can come up with a agreeable date, if it's not the third Thursday, if they have something that works better, then I think we should be flexible and letting them decide that. So, I think I have no more comments other than what we brought up before about that we would appoint 5 voting members plus 1 student representative. You have another comment?
No, that's my main comment. The other one is that there are some experts on council. Harold Anderson's been serving on the air quality management board and knows a lot about air quality. I serve on the Sustainable Groundwater and Water Resource Agency. We've got SACOG. We're all would all be happy to update, maybe send you an email with our projects and what we're working on to help out. Sure.
I'll just say I also totally agree with keeping it at 5.
5.
Because like Bill mentioned, it's really tough sometimes when you have the bigger groups getting a quorum and we want this to move along. So I think it'll do better with 5 than something closer to 11 for sure.
Any more comments? If not, I will open it up for motion.
Move staff recommendation.
Second. We have a motion and a second?
Is that with the
changes?
the suggested changes that
Right.
we made cumulatively?
Yeah. With the 5 voting members.
And could I just ask one point of clarification? So are we doing away with the student member altogether, or with the student
No.
member?
We'd like to still try to get one.
Okay. And are they going to be,
Liaison?
are they going to be a voting member?
What's everybody think?
Because then you would have 5.
6.
Yeah, then it would
We
be
have
6. And then how would that student member, if you're each appointing 1, would that student member be appointed collectively, or how would you?
Suggestions?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we'll have Chris do is try to recruit some students to participate in the process. But I think the mayor and the council members are right. The student members can be tough because realize we're going to be doing this through the spring when every single student at Winters High School has at least 40 things to do every week. And it becomes an issue. So I think the ability to collaborate and get some students to come in, but I agree that keeping the student members is, especially if you make them a voting member, you run into quorum issues very quickly, and also just from a voting standpoint. So
maybe move the student member to the liaison list.
Absolutely, and that'll get them. I think the council's right on. Tighten it up a little bit. You have the 5 voting members, and then you'll get the student, and we can do that. We can absolutely do that. If you can maybe even get a couple of students, that would be good.
Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I agree with the city manager's comments. And one thing that I also bring up moving forward later on, once we get to the commission stage of this, is that I would like to see, a designated voting member for a position for youth on the commission. I think that it's important to leave that opportunity open to youth, considering that's a very up and coming issue for a lot of youth, that they're very concerned about it. So I think that moving forward, when the commission is established, that that suggestion when that recommendation comes about, and that's might be the responsibility of board members that are selected to also consider that moving forward.
And I would just also note that in terms of the quorum, Chris made clear under meetings that the quorum would be based on the voting members. So he said that
Right.
it's just 3 members required for a quorum already, so that should be manageable.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion, an amended motion, second. Okay. Go up to one question.
As far as the youth member, could that go like to junior college or college?
Yeah, what's your definition of youth?
That's a good question.
Come on, Chris, what do you think is youth and what do you think is old?
Youth is a very subjective term. So I had envisioned it being someone that had been, like writing this, I had envisioned a high school student, potentially a college student. Maybe that should be formed more clearly, looking as I rewrite this to include my liaison role. If you'd like it to be composed of high school students or college students in the area, I can make that more clear. Because I understand youth can be, I'm a youth, but we're all young, you know?
Yeah.
I think we'll see who we get
Yeah.
interest from, and we can probably take it from there and figure out who we want as student representative. Mrs. Meyer, you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick, I'm gonna be taking a class in the fall or in the spring, so would that qualify as youth?
Right
We'll
there.
have to look at that, on your application.
All right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Then I will call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Great, thank you. Good job. Okay, one more discussion item tonight, another one of our favorite topics, animal control services.
Yeah.
in Yolo County.
Mayor and council, just gonna move this down. Instead of being on the same calendar, staff's just recommending that you approve the agreement with Yolo County for animal control services. I just wanted to provide a very short update. Animal services, yeah, we're almost on. 30 seconds. One of the things that we're moving forward with is there's Animal Services Task Force. The Mayor Pro Tem and I both sit on that representing the city. I represent the city managers on one of the boards where we've been looking at a bunch of issues. There are 4 key issues that the task force is looking at. Our next meeting is in January. Governance, the overall budget, and understanding of that, a review of services that not only include the current services, but projected services. There's a big issue. Almost a third of the entire budget is paid for by the city of West Sac. And they've got service issues, big time. On one hand, Woodland kind of complains about what their costs are, but it's right in their city. So looking at services is very important, and it's going to have to be enticing to keep the entire county together on all this. And then finally, the big issue has to deal with the shelter. The current shelter, for many reasons, needs to be replaced. So, and it's a big ticket item. So anyway, we're moving this thing forward. I anticipate that once the January meeting hits, you're going to probably see a series of meetings, probably, I would say 4 to 5 meetings between January and the end of July, when they're going to have to wrap this thing together. So there'll be some more updates coming to the council regarding all this, because ultimately it's going to be an issue that's of a lot of interest. We have a really great group here in Winters that's very pro-animal. We have cat people and dog people. Everybody's really interested in all this stuff. So I can see us collaborating and getting more work input in it, but anyway, staff's just recommending that you approve this agreement, and I think the Board of Supervisors approved it for everybody this afternoon, so, or this morning, so.
Questions?
I'll just comment, because I'm on that task force. One of the things I like about it is there's been quite a bit of private groups interested in participating, that have been participating in this group, and are appear to be more than willing to help raise the funds for a new shelter and help with the financing of that, which is very encouraging since, money's tight with everybody. So those are all big pluses to me, and I know when we set up the JPA, we talked about making sure that a couple of those folks get, a position on the board. Since if they're gonna be bringing money to the table, I think they deserve a seat at the table. And so, so it's kind of, it's come along relatively quickly, considering, once we got started, and I think it'll help everybody out in the long run. We can keep it moving and get it done.
Other questions, council? Anybody in the public would like to comment? No? Okay, if not, then I will open it up for a motion.
I'll move it. I move the city recommendation that we approve the agreement between the county of Yolo and the city of Winners for animal control services.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Last item tonight will be the city manager's report.
Just really quick, 3 items. Put in front of everybody a draft of our active projects list. I'd especially like to call attention, there are 18 pages of stuff we're working on. But I'd like to call your attention to page 10. It says regional projects. It's something I need to get from the council members. I'm gonna email you this spreadsheet. I need you to go to the areas that you're working in, and I need you to give me some of the projects that you're working on for each one of these things. There are actually, I think, 24 different bodies that we all sit on. So I'm gonna need you to go through, we're gonna update this thing, because I think it's really important as we get ready, not only to put together the upcoming fiscal year budgets, but also just to start pushing information out to the public about what's going on. There are a lot of projects, and it's good that we articulate those things. The departments are updating their sections. This is a really rough draft at this point, so if you can, look at that section. If there are any highlights, I think the MTP is done, or at least it's getting there, but if you can think of the highlights for some of the boards and commissions that everybody sits on, I appreciate that. Just a quick update, the senior commission had their second meeting the other night. Again, this very good group. They're focusing on when they're meeting. They're trying to start positioning themselves for some of the priorities and some of the low-hanging fruit that they're going to go for. I think they're going to do a great job. Very well organized. And then the last thing I have, for the January 21st City Council meeting, one of the things that we'd like to do is we'd like to spend, we'll probably schedule it for about 90 minutes, but we'd like to have a joint workshop with the City Council and the Planning Commission on community outreach. We're not going to talk about any hot topics that anybody wants to talk about. What we want to do is, I think it's important that we talk about community outreach. What are some of the avenues that we can do? I'm doing a lot of research right now. I'm looking at the Local Government Commission. I'm looking at the Institute for Local Government, talking to SACOG about their civic lab. There are a lot of various things out there, but we need to figure out how to get in to all the groups in town. Not everybody shows up to a council meeting or to a community forum on anything. We've got to figure out, it's going to be a combination of various types of surveys, outreach, technology, those open meetings, and all the workshop stuff. We need to bring kind of our brain power together that we can talk about this, how we're going to get it. There's I can't tell you how many times people get up and they say, well, how are we going to get the outreach? How are we going to get the participation and everything? Let's have a meeting and really talk about it. We'll bring all of our best ideas. Over the holiday break, I'm going to work on this thing. I've already got appointments scheduled with some key folks. I'm going to try and bring all the information I can, but we need to do this. We've included almost $70,000 in the planning projects list for talking about the specific plan, about the climate action plan, about the environmental impact report, about the things that we want to talk about with the general plan. We got to put up on this thing, and that means, we've got real money. $70,000 can do this, but we are going to need folks from the community that are going to step up and help us with this stuff. And we're going to have, if we have to go bang on everybody's door to get them to give us input on some key things, it's going to be critical. The number one criticism that we've been getting is our ability to do this. So anyway, we'll get the planning commission in here, and maybe I'll hit up some of the other committees and commissions to get their folks in here. What are some great ideas on it? So other than that, happy holidays to everybody. The schedule is Christmas is a week from tomorrow. Everybody's ready? No. City Hall will be closed next week, the week of December 30th. We will be open for half days that week, closed on New Year's Day, and happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you. On that, at 8:44, I will adjourn the last meeting of the year and of the decade. Happy holiday.
Year and the decade.
Tracy,
Yes.
I need to sign.
We don't even announce that we're trading.
Yeah, Chris.
Bring it on the 21st, or come and see me at City Hall. No, seriously. You got ideas, let me know.
We're gonna be golf. Especially in the marriages.
Yes, I mean,
Sure, I'll put bottom on that. Yeah, as changes come up, I can do that.
yeah.
We could affect
We've
Jay
actually
for
got a
his,
pretty small one.
acronym.
Yeah.
I
All right.
Yeah. You know what?